Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Refined Racing League Porsche Cup season number 3. My name is Daniel Handover, and I will be joining you in the proceedings, and I will be taking you through proceedings this evening. We are at the infamous Red Bull Ring, 4.28 kilometers, currently track temperature 42 degrees C in Australia, Spielberger track, which I'm very, very excited to see when it comes to these cars. Now, the Porsche Cup, as you all know, a car that does have some downforce, albeit not that much. It's a car that is pretty damn fast in a straight line, though. So we're going to see a lot of slipstreaming here, a lot of heavy braking zones, big braking zones as well, remember. So, the likes of areas down into turn 3, down into turn 4, possibly into turn 9 as well. And obviously the big one being turn 1. Also, there are some very, very big braking zones for our drivers to try and make some overtake. And because the braking zones are quite long within these cars as well, it does promote some overtake. And this is going to be a very, very interesting race indeed. We're going to be going to your action on track in but a few moments' time. But again, big thank you to our sponsors for this. A big thank you to the sponsor for the series. And yes, down into round 3. Obviously, only 2 rounds left to go here, with this one being one of them. Only 4 rounds in total. It's a pretty short season. It is a short season, but that does give people the opportunity to, once they've done one season, they can reset, decide what they want to do, decide how they need to improve, and then they've got another season to go. On the flip side, though, it does mean that there aren't that many opportunities to have a mistake and then to come back. So you've really got to be on the ball. You really have to be on the ball when it comes to actually moving forward with making sure, as I said, you don't make any mistakes. A couple of people that have joined on the chat. That is Michelle Duplessis. Thank you very much. Welcome. What's that? So hello, Alpha Tech. That's Alpha Tech Evolution. And then Alpha Tech Evolution Gaming says, hey there. Good luck. So there we go. Got a couple of people in already. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let's go back to the let's go to the action on track for the first time this race. We're still in practice at the moment. We've got another 5 minutes or so for practice, and then we will be going into qualifying. Qualifying being a 2-lap closed qualifying, so drivers will be on their own, and they have 2 laps to set the fastest time. So you got 1 flyer, and then 1 out lap. And then 2 flyers. So you really do have to make them count. It does mean, though, that the second lap is going to be the fastest. It's generally what happens. A lot of the time you will see that when it comes to, especially when it comes to the Porsche Cup, the tyres drop off almost instantly. So after the 3rd lap, you're pretty much done in terms of tyre-wise. So here are your current overall standings for practice. You can see on the timer tower on the top left, less than 5 minutes to go. Now, what I will say here, 20 cars on the grid. If we have a look at the best times that people have been setting, so Luke Luchesi setting the time in towers at the top with a 1:30.843. Now, that certainly will come down, I would imagine. I would probably hazard a guess that within qualifying trim, there would be a 1:30.7 for Luke Luchesi. Maybe even in practice, we may see the 1:30.7s. I can't see Luke Luchesi being the only person in the 30s. So do keep an eye on that. It's a pretty big gap between Luke Luchesi. Actually, there's not a big gap, between Luchesi and Fori, who's only a couple of tenths behind. There is, however, a sizable gap between Leighton Fori and Peter Mayer. Peter Mayer having currently set a 1:31.688. He's a couple of tenths ahead of Ryan Ottens, who's then also a tenth of Paul Gerbera. That is Tristan Dino Brega as well. Very, very close, actually only 100th away. So these times are close. And as we all know, and as we have seen before, they will indeed be getting closer as this session progresses. There is your pit lane there. Again, great camera. You can see all the pit lane, and you can see coming out of turn 10. Plus, you can see them all the way into the braking zone going into turn 1. So it's a very, very... You can see the elevation change as well. The elevation change is something to take into consideration. There's a pretty big elevation rise when you're going into, from the braking zone of turn 1 down into turn 3. And even in going up to turn 4 as well, it's a very, very big elevation change. And then it dips down very aggressively going through turn 8, 9, and then 10. So that is something that drivers will need to take into consideration as well. Going into turn 1, it will actually help you. Going down into turn 9 and then turn 10, it will be against you a little bit. You have to brake a bit earlier. Any more timings coming in? Again, people just settling in for the moment. They're not really going to be doing too much, I don't think. There's Leighton Ferrari there in the number 46R BWT 911. A very striking livery, of which we have a fair few of those in this season. Certainly some striking designs. But with these current timings that we've seen, it definitely seems to be a fight for the midfield. Have a look between Peter Mayer and P3. I mean, really, that was someone that's gone off. Who was that? That was Gerald Forey, I think, that had a bit of a moment. So did Yannaman Pruis, by the looks there. But yeah, have a look going forward. There's less than a second that is separated between Peter Mayer and that is Wouter Kramer in 11. So about a second between 3rd to 11. So not too much, not the biggest gaps we've seen. So that will stem, and you will see there will be a good battle, I imagine, for this midfield. If qualifying is roughly the same compared to the practice times and what we can take away from the practice times, Luke Lucchesi and Leighton Ferrari will be pulling a sizable gap on the rest of the field. Do not quote me, that could very well change. And when it all comes down to qualifying, there certainly could be a shake-up within qualifying, there are only 2 laps that you're able to use. But it does set the bar currently. As I said, though, that may very well change. There is Yannaman Paris just going down number 814 team heat together, and he goes a little bit too deep going into turn 1. Going back down to Elroy Oliver, the number 83, as he comes down the K&N inspired bit of sideways action there. While it does look very, very cool, it will slow you down quite considerably. So you do have to be a little bit careful. That's the last thing you want, because that time then is lost all the way down through turn 2 and down into turn 3. So you do have to be very, very careful when you're going on the exit at turn 1, especially down into turn 3. Also, got to be careful on the exit because you've got quite a long run down into turn 4. This could play into the hand of some drivers. Tyre management, tyre conservation is very, very key here. If you don't look after your tyres, it's amazing. It doesn't seem like it's going to be too bad of a circuit to really work with that, because there are some heavy braking zones, slow corners. The middle sector going down into the final sector. Some higher speed corners, which will take up a bit more of your tyre. But overall, if you're not careful with your tyres and you run them too hard, too early in the race, you will notice a difference again, especially at the likes of going out of turn 1 and turn 3. 2 are the biggest potential losses. 2 of the biggest potential losses when you come through. And if you don't get the right exit, again, it will go wrong. You will lose several positions. And again, it's something that you really, really want to try and avoid. Practice is over, though. We are going to move into qualifying now. So drivers will be straight out there. They will not be holding back at all. We've already got, we've got about 6-7 people out already. Paul Gerber's out. Stephen Kerdick, Elroy Oliver, Thynas both there. They're all out now, just getting nice early time. They do have 10 minutes to set the laps, though. There's as long as they get the 2 laps within 10 minutes, it doesn't really matter when they do those laps. But it's still something that you want to try and get out as early as you can, realistically. Paul Gerber then just on his out lap, weaving, getting some heat into the tyres. Team tryhard number 51. So trying to get some. You can see there as well. Trying to get the brakes, trying to get some heat into the brakes as well. Trying to get some heat into the tyres. So you'll see the first laps will be very, very slow, and then it will get as soon as they get through that first opening lap, it will just be put the hammer down. Try and set the fastest lap that you can in the 2 laps that you have available. Matt Densham goes down through 6 into 7 and 8. Tricky corner is turn 7. It's a later apex than you initially think, so you've got to be a little bit careful there. You can see A little bit wide there from Denjum. But doesn't cost him all that much time in all honesty. Again, warming off the tyres, trying to get some heat into them as much as possible. Now, through turn 9. Got to get a good exit on turn 10. That does look like a good exit. Yes, now, get the hammer down. This is it. First flying lap for Matt Denson. And first flying lap for a lot of other drivers as well. So we'll keep an eye on what these times are going to be coming on the board with. We'll also be keeping an eye on the sectors as well, because sectors have a big impact. It gives us an idea of who's going to be putting in the fastest times. Matt Denton is actually going to be one of the first people to cross the first sector, so he will be one of the first times that we'll see on the board. It's a 22.41 for the first sector. We'll have to see who is able to bring through that. Ryan Ottens has just done a 22.37 in the first sector. And scratch that. Lots of people coming in now with their purple sectors as well. So it's still pretty close for Denjum. He manages to get a good first sector on the cards. Can he do the same through sector 2? Luke Lucchesi, though, and he's just started his first flying lap. We'll have to see how he performs in that first sector. Everyone's just running through now, so it's going to be Denjum with one of the first people to cross the line. And what's going to happen is you're going to notice that the times that Denjum will put on, he'll set a lap time, and then there'll just be a swarm of other laps as well. We'll focus on Denjum through his first flying lap. Again, a little bit of a squiggle there through turn 7. That would have cost him a little bit of time, maybe half a tenth or so. It's amazing how much that will cost you, even in the higher speed corners. Coming down into turn 9. Again, use as much curb as you possibly can on the exit. You can see runs right over it. Nice early turning for turn 10. Cut the inside, but not too much. Run on the exit. That was a good final couple of corners. What is the time going to be for Denjum? Is it going to take provisional pole position? It does, but for how long? We've got a lot of drivers coming across the line in a second. Ryan Ottens goes P2 with a 32.48. Still pole position provisionally for Denjum as it stands at the moment. Paul Gerber goes up into third. We've got Leighton Forry that's just about to come across the line as well. In fact, he comes through turn 10. Tristan Dino Brega takes pole position provisionally. That may be a little bit too wide for Forry. He may have that lap removed from him. Yanaman Paris goes into fifth with a 33.424. And Brega with that 31.904. Currently leading the way. And that was indeed Leighton Forry's first lap. Did not count, I would imagine, because of that final little moment going out of turn 10. Last thing you want to do there. Couple of drivers still yet to go. Luke Lucchesi goes in with a 32.12. So, still one more lap to go for everyone. Again, the second lap tends to be the faster one, as long as they can get that time down, as long as they can get the heat into the tyres that they need. Nicky Pearson just goes, good luck to my favourite driver, Yanaman Paris, in your race tonight. Thank you very much, Nicky. Thank you for showing the support. Speaking of, whereabouts is he? There he is, just coming through down on the exit of turn 5 into turn 6. Carries the speed, nice wide entry line, keeps it in check, that's good. A couple of drivers will be coming across the line for their second laps. Peter Mayer will be one of them as he goes through turn 9. It was a little bit aggressive on the curb on the inside. That would have cost him a fraction of a second. Maybe quarter of a tenth, perhaps, something like that. For the Vibe Squad number 5 car, where does he come across the line? Does this time count? The first one did not. Does the second one count? And it doesn't. No. So both of Peter Mayer's laps do not count. That will certainly be costing. That will be very frustrating for him, I am sure. Johan Rubler goes into P4 with his second flying lap with a 132. Daniel Rowe goes up into second. There is Leighton Forry with that 131.44. Are we going to see a 30? Luke Lucchesi goes in with a 31.278, but there is no 30 on the cards. I was almost certain we see a 30.7 on the time in tower, but nothing as of yet. So Luke Lucchesi does take that pole position provisionally. Still a couple of drivers left to go, though. Jeff Hancock's was going through. This is his second flying lap. He went very wide into turn 6, so I don't think this time is actually going to count. He may just be rolling back to the pits. He seems to be on the move, though, so maybe just a little bit wide trying to push that car going into turn 6. Either way, that has cost him some time. Tristan Dino Brega, look at that. He's 131.904, so still a sizable gap. Yeah, Jeff Hancock's comes into the pits. Still a sizable gap between first and third, but not as big as we saw in practice. The gap being just around 0.6 of a second, and then it's very, very close. Have a look at that between P3 and then, what's that, P4? P9. So P3 and P9, only 3 or 4 tenths separate them. So that's going to be a close battle. We're going to have to keep an eye out for. A couple of drivers still left to go. Nagel actually just puts in their first flying lap, and it's, well, the first time flying lap. The first one did not count, and that puts them up into P9. There are still a couple of drivers that have not set a lap time, that weren't able to set a lap time. So we have Jeff Hancock, Peter Mayer, Elroy Oliver, and Riccardo Tafani. All of their laps were invalid, so they will not be getting put on the board. So that's why you can only see 15 cars currently on the tower. We do have, though, Wouter Kramer, who will be going through his first flying lap. So, 10 minutes left to go. He will have, it's going to be close, actually. And I'm just thinking if he's going to be able to get his second, actually, no, apologies. That was his first flying lap that's done. And he goes up into P13. I'm going to ride, if we can, on the roll bar. There we go. So, coming down into turn 3. Big braking zone here. Use all of the track available. You can see running over the curb. Gets the car turned in a little bit wide on entry there. That would have cost Kramer a little bit of time. First sector-wise, it seemed to be a personal best at 22.63. Have to see what sector 2 is. Throwing it down the gearbox into turn 4. Again, a little bit of hesitation on the brake, on the throttle, while he just waits for the car to come around. So 40.5 is his current personal best. For the second sector, as it comes to the exit of turn 6 into turn 7. That'll be the end of the second sector. It's a 40.03, so a significantly quicker time in sector 2 than the than last lap. This could be a few tenths taken off here for Wouter Kramer if he manages to keep it all in check for the final couple of corners as he goes through turn 9, keeps it nicely in check. Does he keep it in check through turn 10 as well? It's a little bit wide. Big sideways moment. Did he get away with it? We'll have to find out. As he comes across the line, does he improve? He does. And while he does improve 0.3 of a second, he only improves by 1 position. That time, I would probably imagine that on that last corner, that would have cost him around about, or maybe something like half a tenth, perhaps. So while that would have been an improvement, possibly 33.3 on the cards, it wouldn't actually make a difference when it comes to, excuse me, yeah, it wouldn't actually make a difference when it comes to positions. Yanniman Pruis was still about 4 tenths or so ahead. So that is qualifying done and dusted. We're going to bring you the grid in a few moments' time. Another 30 seconds to go. As Wouter Kramer just gets that last little bit of testing in. Last little bit of practice before we move on to the grid. Again, around about a 30-minute race we'll be having here at Red Bull Ring. So expect around 15 laps. Around this absolutely fabulous circuit. Something I absolutely adore. This is a fantastic circuit. It's a very, very fast-flowing circuit. Provides some really good racing. And hopefully we're going to be able to see that here. Qualifying, as you can see, is now over. We're actually going to take a short break from one of our sponsors. We'll be back in a few moments to bring you the grid. So stick around, don't go anywhere, and we'll see you with the grid.
Basic human rights. Water, electricity, healthcare, and education. But what if we don't have access to affordable infrastructure to support these basic rights? We are looking for a change, a better future for all. But without education and access to information, change can never happen. Welcome to IO Verified. We're not looking to just uplift and inspire our staff, but to empower and enrich the lives of communities, allowing small businesses to grow and build a future for themselves and enrich the lives of those around them. Join us today. Help us be the change and inspire the future.
Welcome back, everyone, to round number 3 here for the Radical, for the Refined Racing League Porsche Cup Season 2 here at Red Bull Ring. Here is your grid for round number 3. Luke Luchesi, Leighton Forry, Tristan Dina Brega, Daniel Rowe, Paul Gerber, Gerald Forry, Johan Kubler, Matt Denzem, Atti Nagel, Ryan Otten. So your top 10. Yanniman Paris just sitting outside in 11th with Wouter Kramer taking P12. Gerber 13th, Thinus Botha 14th, Jason Gibson takes P15 on the grid with Stephen Koenig 16th, Elroy Oliver 17th, Jeff Hancock's unable to set a time, and neither did Riccardo Tafani and Peter Mayer. They are starting a little bit further down the grid than they would have liked, and in fact, the final, Elroy down to Mayer, none of them actually set a lap time, and in fact, here we go, race has already begun. Who's going to get the jump? It's a relatively good start. It's a very good start for Luke Chessie, for Leighton Flory as well. That's a bit of a send there for Daniel Rowe. Goes at the inside contact already. Going down into turn 1. That was never going to work in a million years, unfortunately, Daniel. And that has severely cost both of them. There's still more carnage as we go through. Oh dear, I think that was Peter Mayer that's gone off. And there is still... Oh, that's the aftermath of that contact. Well, that's certainly something that hopefully we're going to catch a couple of replays on. But yeah, unfortunately, just a little bit too, I think a little tiny bit too aggressive there from Daniel Rose straight out of the gate. Well, he did have a good run down into turn 1. Little bit of a tricky one. You don't really want to try and push the car too early, too quickly. But hindsight is a funny thing. There's the intervals on your screen now. So Luke Luchesi and Leighton Flory, because of what happened there, the gap is already between them. Is around. That's Wouter Kramer that's gone off. Where is... Which Kramer, he's gone, you can just see the tyre marks actually. And in fact, he's gone off. There he is, just about to come on. That's a bit close. Does the right thing though, just tries to reverse off the track. But unfortunately, that has cost him big time there. Drops him all the way down to P20. Certainly something you did not want to do. Well, that has shaken things up almost immediately. That's another spin. Who was that? I couldn't quite see who that was. That wasn't Wouter Kramer again. It might have been. No, it wasn't Wouter again. That couldn't have been Wouter. That may have been Jeff Hancock's, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure. We'll see if we can get it. There's a lot of replays to go through. A lot of replays to go through here already. But Luke Luchesi, the gap between Luchesi and Leighton Flory is only half a second. It hasn't dropped as much as or it hasn't extended as much as I thought it would. But the gap between Flory and Ottens, 4.2 seconds. That's a hell of a gap, I tell you that now. We have got a bit of a breathing. We have got a bit of breathing space at the moment. So in a few moments, we're going to have a look at these replays. That's close there from Flory. He is wanting to get past sooner rather than later. The gap's opened up a little bit more to half a second now, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. A little bit further down the order. This is a battle between Koenig, Nobrega, and Rowe. Rowe is trying to push himself back up the order, as is Tristan Di Nobrega. Lost 11 positions, and so has Daniel Rowe. Started P3 and P4, so these are the two people that Nobrega and Rose. Rowe goes up the inside of Nobrega. Is he going to fight it? No, Nobrega does back out of it. Lets Daniel Rowe through. That's someone else that's gone off. That's Ryan Ottens that's had a crash going into turn 4. Lots of replays that we need to have a look at here. Matt Densham, I think, may have had a moment as well. In fact, Matt Densham has. There he is. You can just see that was a big Porsche in the camera shot there, so you can just see. And that certainly won't be something that they'll be... Whoa, my goodness. What happened there? That was more contact between Nobrega and Rowe. So even more contact between the two of them there. There's going to be a lot of... We're going to have to queue up a lot of replays and watch them here. Nobrega does actually go into the pits. His car's certainly seen better days. Does Daniel Rowe go into the pits? Is his car even going? He does manage to get going again. But Nobrega's car flew into the air. I don't think, no. So Daniel Rowe doesn't come into the pits. Nobrega has to, though, to repair that damage. Well, I'll tell you what, as action go, there's certainly been a fair bit of action at the start of this race. We're only 2 laps in. Just coming on to, just started the 3rd lap. There's a lot of action. Probably some would say a little bit too much. A little bit too much contact for the start of a race. While Red Bull Ring is it's a very exciting track as well. It sometimes can promote that little bit of aggressive racing that can be quite hard to, quite hard to navigate through, especially if you're caught up in the middle of it. Elroy Oliver, is he going to make a move? Has a bit of a look on the inside, down into turn 4 on Thinus Botha. Decides against it though, but Du Gerber, he's only a couple of tenths behind. So this battle here for P7, very much on the cards with the number 56 of, with the number 55, apologies, of Jason Gibson leading this train. Elroy Oliver, though, goes a little bit wider through turn 7 than Thinus Botha. He does get a better run, though, that will give him a little bit of time. It's about a tenth and a half it's going to give him. That's a surprising difference there. I didn't think it would be the difference would be that much, but there we are. Right, we've got a little bit of a gap now, so I do want to see what happened. Let's see what happened now going into, if we can see possibly chopper cam. We would have had the cameras overhead going down into turn 1. So Nobrega goes on the inside, he takes the defensive line straight, moves across the circuit. Daniel Rowe just, oh, it's a tricky one there actually. That did look a little bit different there from that camera angle. In all honesty, it's still very hard to tell there actually, and we'll see if we can watch that again a little bit, maybe in possibly in slow motion. So as we go through, so there's definitely a send there from Daniel Rowe. He is, however, just about halfway at the inside. He does have a lockup though. It didn't look like he was making the corner. In all honesty, it looked like he was going to miss the apex and run a little bit wide. Oh, that's a tricky one. I still feel that Daniel Rowe was just a tad too over aggressive at the start of the race. A little bit of a shame there, but he's certainly got his work cut out. And Nobrega actually gets past him again. I wonder if Daniel Rowe has had to drop into the pits. Nobrega, they're still battling really close. So bear in mind, these two have had 2 bits of contact with each other now, and yet they're still side by side going down into turn 4 for this lap. Is this going to be? I'd say there's no love-loves between the two. They both give each other room. In fact, Daniel Rowe goes a fraction wide, but he keeps the speed up, so he's going to have the inside for turn number 6. But Nobrega holds it round the outside. He doesn't want to give up. I think he's going to have to concede the position, though. No, he doesn't. So they're side by side through turn 6. Are they going to be side by side through turn 7? Of course they're going to be side by side through turn 7. Why would I think any different? And in all of that, I think Nobrega's going to take... He does maintain that position. So Nobrega takes and holds that P18 after all that. Well, they were side by side for, what, 5 corners? And Daniel Rowe had to back out of it, though. It does mean, however, I think they've now both... Whoa! Big moment for Daniel Rowe there. Certainly, Daniel Rowe, he's a very fast driver. Doesn't look all that comfortable today, though. Again, maybe he wasn't able to practice too much before the start of the race. It's certainly a possibility. But yeah, just doesn't look as comfortable. Doesn't look as poised as he normally is. As we have seen him in previous rounds. Are we going to see? There's going to be no send from here. He's a little bit too far. He's a little bit too far back, I feel. There could very well be a send, depending on his line. Bit of a lock up there, though. That would have dropped him a bit of time. It has. It's dropped him about half a second. And while we've got, again, a bit of breathing room there, let's have a look at a couple of other incidents that happened. So this is Paul Gerber. I think Paul Gerber actually just got caught up in the incident. Yeah, he did actually. So Paul Gerber just couldn't really do much in all honesty. So that was one of the incidents there. And then Wouter Kramer had a big moment coming down into turn 4. Does he just outbrake himself? It looks like he does. Yeah, just outbrakes him. Goes way too hot. Cold tyres, brakes go down. That's a hefty shunt as well. I wonder if that's giving him. I wonder if that did give him any damage. In all honesty, but I almost think it did. He did have a... That's okay. So that's where we caught him afterwards, was that spin. Jeff Hancock's had a moment. So yeah, this was Jeff Hancock's actually that goes through and has that spin. It was the Porsche that we saw on that opening lap. And then a couple of laps later, well, I mean, let's just have a look at what happened between... So as we go through, so there's Nobrega just behind... Number 70. Oh, just. Well, I mean, we'll have another look at that, maybe from a couple of different camera angles. But yeah, realistically, it's just, again, all the cars trying to fit in one space, and unfortunately, it was just never going to. So there was a bit of. That was a little bit unfortunate there. I think, all in all, though, there was always going to be that car that was going to close down. Let's have a look at it. Final time from the chopper cam. That's just, yeah, Nobrega just tried to go for a gap that was never going to be there in a million years. Unfortunately, that was always going to close, unfortunately, there. Steve McKernick, while he did go a little bit wide, he didn't run completely off the circuit. So, yeah, that's a bit unfortunate there. And Daniel Rowe has jumped into the pits once again. Thanos Bothas had a moment. That car has certainly seen better days as well. That car really has seen better days. That's a big incident there. Something's happened big time. I'll tell you what, there's lots of replays for us to have a look at. And in fact, let's have a look at what happened here. Is there an instant between Ryan Ottens and Thinus both? I don't think there is. Could this be... Oh, so it goes a little bit sideways. That would have put a tad too much heat into the tyres. But you could... Okay, so there we go. And did... So did the right thing. Oh, did the right thing, but unfortunately... I couldn't quite see who there was. I think that's Riccardo Tefani that had the collision. And it was Riccardo Tefani, yeah. So, Riccardo Tefani, I mean, to be fair, both did exactly what he should have done, which was to held the brake. Unfortunately, Tefani was not able to avoid it. What's happened to Peter Mayer? Oh my goodness, it's an absolute mare because Jeff Hancock has had another moment. What is going on with this race? We haven't really seen much racing action. All the overtaking has been done due to incidents that people have had. Tristan Dino-Brega moves back through on the inside of Matt Denton. And that's going down into turn 4. No defense there from Denton. And then between, that was Jeff Hancock. Jeff Hancock has had another. What on earth is going on? I'm so confused. It just all seemed to have kicked off. Jeff Hancock, yeah, his car is yes, he's got some. His car is crabbing quite heavily. He's got a lot of suspension damage there. He's going to have to come into the bits and get that repaired. So let's just understand first what happened here with Jeff Hancock. So we've looked at more replays in the actual race here. So goes, I don't really know. Did he miss a gear? I'd hard to believe he missed a gear just because he was purely because obviously the car's sequential gearboxed, and oh, that doesn't look safe at all. And does he get caught up? No, he just had his own another moment again. Yeah, that's a very interesting. I don't know what happened there going on the exit of turn 3. So my only possible theory to that is the fact, yeah, he may have got a bit of wheel spin or something that cost him some time, perhaps. Not entirely sure. In all honesty, someone else has had a moment as well. That's actually no. Duke Gerber has passed Elroy Oliver, and that was because Elroy Oliver had seemed to have an off by the looks. Ryan Otten's passed him as well. So let's have a look at this overtake here. Where is Elroy Oliver? In fact, there is Elroy Oliver doing a small pirouette on the inside of turn 3. Wintergraber has had another incident by the look. Can't quite see him though on the timing tower. So I'm not entirely sure where he has gone. Johan Grubler goes a little bit wide. Look at what that's done. That's opened up to Joel Forey. That's decides that he wants to have a piece of the action as well. Have a look at Atty Nagel. He's only a few tenths behind as well. Are we going to see a move from Forey? This is a battle that's certainly kicking off now. So the teammate of Daniel Rowe certainly having a better race at the moment than Daniel Rowe, with Rowe being in P16. So the Hybrid Academy car just holding his own, pulling out of the slipstream, but it's not really going to do much good because Forey has a very, very good run. Meanwhile, have a look at Atty Nagel. He's just catching up at this point. He's already pulled 2 tenths on these two here. And in fact, he's pulled a hell of a lot more time now. Another 2 tenths. Let's have a look at it from his perspective. Here we go. Can't quite see that from it's not the best camera angle. That's a much better camera angle there. So now riding on board with Atty Nagel. He's got front row seats to what's happening between Forey and Grubler. That's a little bit wide for Grubler. That's going to open up massively for Forey. It might even open up to Atty Nagel as well. Are we going to see 2 positions lost? I think we are. Yes, we do indeed. So that is... Grubler goes forward. He goes from P3 down into P5 in the space of 2 laps. That was probably the easiest overtake that Atty Nagel has ever had to do. In all honesty, it was just handed to him on a platter there. So that is. Although at the moment Grubler is trying to fight back, though the gap is a tenth and a half. The one thing neither of these drivers want to do is they don't want to lose sight of Gerald Forey that is now ahead. He's running in P3. I would almost suggest, again, for these guys, they want to just be sitting behind. They want to almost want to let everyone concertina up a little bit and then start battling again. We're nearly halfway. We're actually just about to get halfway through this race. Lap 10 of 21. You can just see way off in the distance there is Leighton Forey. It's just Ed. He was just going through turn 3 at that point with Little Chessie. The gap has extended between those two to 1.7 seconds. So that gap certainly has opened up. It's not opened up much. Still very easily a mistake from Lechesi would certainly bring Forey back into contention. A bit further down now, Peter Mayer and Du Gerber are having a nice little battle going down through turn 2 into the braking zone of turn 3. Late on the brakes. It was late on the brakes for Mayer, but late on the brakes for Gerber, although a bit too late perhaps on the brakes, because that's given Mayer a much, much better drive. Needs to get in the slipstream nice and early, which he does. The gap's 2.5 tenths of a second. You can see on the left hand of your timing tower. It's going to come down. It's not going to come down enough, though. Bit of a wider line there from Mayer. That will gain him a fair bit of time. I thought there was a bit of contact between the two there. There may have been the smallest of brushes. But Peter Mayer is really, really trying to get. He's not trying to get past. He's not holding him back, is he? He wants to get that position done. Whether he thinks he can catch up to Du Gerber, I mean, the times are very, very similar between. The two. So I don't really know if Peter Mayer going to try and catch up to. Is he going to try and catch up to Ryan Otten's at the moment? Otten's pace-wise 32.3, and Peter Mayer's time is a 32.3 as well. So very, very close. But again, if he can be released. If he can get past and actually get released from Du Gerber, he may then be able to pull a bit more time out of the bag. It's going to be tough because there's only 10 laps to go. But it could very well happen. Down into turn 1. Is this going to be where the overtake is? He's alongside. Last of the late break. It's going to be... Yeah, Du Gerber has to back out and lets the position through. And so he does manage to make that position stick. He's already pulled 7 tenths. 7.3 seconds is the gap now between himself and Ryan Ottens. We'll have to see if that gap comes down at all. It might even just stay the same. It might even go up a little bit. Maybe Otten does have that pace. But now that Mayer's been released from Gerber, we'll see if that does make a difference. These are the only two battles on circuit at now, with the other battle being Atti Nagel and Johan Krubler, because Gerald Forey has just disappeared up the road. He's already got a 1.4 second gap on the two here. While these two may have been fighting, they are just letting the number 89 just walk away with that final podium spot. So it is the battle for fourth at the moment. Gaps extended between between Leighton and Gerald. Gaps now 20 seconds in the space of 17 minutes. It's very, very impressive. Again, I know we've had a lot of incidents going through, so that certainly hasn't helped the situation by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, that's still a very impressive thing. Lucchesi is pulling away a consistent amount of time on Leighton Forey as well, because that gap is now 2 seconds. Last time we checked, it was about 1.4, 1.5. So I think Forey is just sort of trundling home and just moving forward in second. He's just happy where he is at the moment. And again, when you've got a gap of around about 20 seconds of the car behind, you don't really need to push the car all that much. Riccardo Tafani has had a moment. This is coming down into turn 9. Is it a little bit too wide, perhaps? Oh, no, the back end. Let's go. Bit tricky there. Does the right thing. Gets away with a half spin. Manages to go through. It's another very, very good-looking livery there, sponsored by Makita. So he does manage to get going at the expense of a couple of positions, unfortunately. Thinus Botha and Elroy Oliver both had a moment going through the circuit. I wonder if they followed each other off. Nope. So Thinus Botha just had a spin on his own accord. And then Elroy Oliver had a moment soon after. It was a completely different part of the circuit. Oh, that's a bit of a hefty hit. It's into the tyre barrier, luckily, so the damage isn't actually that severe. It did mean that Peter Mayer did... So this was a few laps ago. Yeah, this was a few laps ago, actually. But so that was what happened with Peter Mayer past Elroy Oliver then. So, yeah, luckily, that did only happen into the tyre barrier. If that was into one of the Armcos or concrete, that would have been a very, very different story. But luckily, the tyre barrier broke a little bit of that impact. Paul Gerber, Du Gerber, battling both the Team Try Hard Racing cars. They're battling pretty heavy, although I think, to me, it looked like Du Gerber may have backed off a little bit there and let Paul Gerber through. That's what it looked like. That's what it looked like to me. So Peter Mayer has passed. I tell you what, the gap between... Let's just have a quick look at the gap between... yeah, the gap between Ryan Ottens and Peter Mayer has opened up still. It's now 8.5 seconds. So that gap is very much opening up. So at this rate, that's going to be a little bit wide there for Ottens. He has just a small lockup, though. Manages to... It doesn't really phase him all that much. He only loses a minimal amount of time there. Yet Ryan Ottens just... Was it a fraction of a couple of tenths lost there, but nothing overly... nothing really major in terms of time loss. So he manages to continue moving forwards. So that gap now 8.3 seconds. So again, Ottens just needs to really just run the remainder of the race. Doesn't really need to push all that much. Absolutely no point at this moment in time. Nagel and Grubler. Grubler goes a little bit wide going into turn 1 by the looks. That would have opened the gap up a little bit. It was over a second. Only a couple of laps ago. It dropped down to 0.7 of a second for a brief moment. And has almost gone back up to that now. So I don't really think Nagel has to worry about everything. He seems to have the pace to pull away from Grubler at the moment. Bit of back markers there. I think that might be fine as both are. Nagel, he's going to be the one to negotiate next. There's Gerald Faury again in that BWT. So this traffic traffic may have a bit of a difference. I don't think it'll have that much of a difference in all honesty. That is the 55. That is Jason Gibson. Apologies there. So Jason Gibson, oh, this is interesting. I'll tell you what, have a look at this because Grubler is now right on the tail. That was a bit of, I thought it was going to be contact there. But this is now played really right into the hands of Grubler. Have a look at that because this battle was 9/10 of a second even. It's now going to be a possible move between Grubler and it is going to be. So, number 15 gets through. And unfortunately, that's going to be frustration there for Nagel. That back marker definitely played a part into him just getting held up a little bit there. Although did the sensible thing and didn't try and force his way and throw himself up the inside of turn 7. And again, for good reason, that would have just ended most probably in an incident. So there's really no point in trying to cost potentially yourself and other drivers on circuit positions. So he did do the sensible thing. He feels he has enough pace that he can just then maintain the move, and he doesn't really want to fight it all that much. He didn't fight it, in all honesty, too much going down into turn 9. So again, it feels obviously he has that pace to just try to just move forward really and retake that position. We'll have to see. The gap's half a second at the moment. There's a little bit more traffic that will be coming up in a few moments. Ricardo Tafani, so there is Ricardo Tafani actually. He's not too far up the road. So they'll probably catch up with him within the next 2 laps or so. Maybe even less than that. Maybe within the next, I'd probably say within the next maybe lap and a half. Actually, no, probably a couple of laps, 2 or 3 laps to go before they catch up with Ricardo Tafani. You can just see there is Jello Alfori there. And there'll be a couple of seconds before Nagel and Johan Grubler get to him. And one of the other battles that is coming out on circuit still going on is Peter Mayer and Paul Gerber. They're still motoring on, they're still battling, and I tell you what, Paul Gerber's, bear in mind, obviously, he had that incident very early on. Got caught up in the incident down into turn 1. He is moving through the field, and he's moving through the field at an absolutely astonishing rate. Bear in mind, he passed Gerber and then caught up with Peter Mayer in a matter of about 2 laps or so, and the gap was about 2.5 seconds when he passed Paul Gerber. When he passed Du Gerber. So that gap is absolutely flown down. So I imagine this seems to be and will only be a matter of time before it comes to the 4. That's too close for comfort for my liking. But Gerber managed to keep it there. There's got to be moved down. The move will be either down into turn 3 here, or it will be down into turn 4. Gerber does get the run. I'd almost be certain that there's a move coming down here as he pulls to the inside. Does he? There's the move. Peter Mayer moves across the circuit. Only a couple of meters, but he does go a little bit wide. He locks the brakes up. That has actually cost him time, but it's also cost Gerber time as well. He's not going to be able to make a move this time. He's got to be a little bit closer to that, or he's got to be even later onto the brakes going into turn 3. Is there going to be a move coming down into turn 4? Not close enough for this time. Again, playing it sensible. Doesn't want to try and, he's already been involved in one incident. Doesn't want to get involved in another. There it goes a little bit wide. That cost him a fraction of time. But Breaker's actually just got past Gerber, so we'll see if we can get that replay, the overtake, in a second. The battles are starting to come back around a bit. 17 laps have gone. So Peter Mayer doing, again, a very, very good job of defending at the moment. He's putting his car in the right place. Just keeping it, again, just in a position where Gerber can't quite get by, just hasn't got the drive. Again, tries to go through turn 9. It's a very, very brave move to make an overtake there, and I personally never think it works, in all honesty. While we wait for that, though, we've got a potential move coming down. This is between Grubler and Nagel again. They're going to go side by side down into turn 3. It's going to be a cutback almost certainly. No, instead Nagel tries to drive around the outside. Does he get the drive? No, he does not. Doesn't quite get the drive that he would have wanted. We'll have to wait another little bit, but this is going to be a matter of time here. While Mayer didn't get the best of runs, it's going to be last of the late breakers. Although, admittedly, Gerber's around the outside. There isn't as good a drive around the outside. So if Mayer can break a little bit later, no, he decides that he's had enough of that. And he just backs out. Although, did the right thing, because Gerber didn't have a particularly good exit going onto the last corner. See, Gerber tries to stay out of that slipstream for as long as possible. There may be a move back on from Peter Mayer. He has to be forced from the outside because Gerber takes the inside line. It's going to be a cut back. There is not. No. We see Gerber there that just popped it on the apex and gone, you're not having that position. And does not let him through. Daniel Rowe just got past Matt Densham. So another replay for us to have a look at. Meanwhile, at the front, you can just see that Attinagel has not managed to get by Gruber. So he will have to wait another lap. Although time is running out for him. He's got to get past something relatively soon. Let's have a look at the overtake on the Brega versus Gerber. There it is going down into turn 4. Again, not much defense there. Tiny bit of defense. Still a little bit of defense there from Gerber. He tried to fight it back, but just couldn't get back that position in time. So he will be... he has obviously dropped that position. And then what happened to Daniel Rowe? Did Matt Densham... Yeah, Matt Densham had a moment. That was why the move was made for him. And that's why Daniel Rowe made the move. I did think the gap was quite big, and then all of a sudden the overtake happened, and that was the reason why. Going back to your live picture now, and I'm a Pruis and Ryan Ottens. This may be a bit of a battle to watch for the next few laps. We've only got 2 or 3 laps left to go here, so we may see a little bit of, may see a couple more overtakes yet to be had. 9-second gap between Nagel and Pruis, so they're not going to have to worry about each other. Fighting each other, and that gap between Ottens and Paul Gerber is 11.8 seconds now. So while Paul Gerber is pretty, he's very, very fast, and while he has now got past Peter Mayer, that gap, unless these two battle significantly hard for the next 2 laps, it's going to be very, very difficult for that gap to close down, although certainly going to come down now because it's going to be a move for Ryan Ottens. Ryan Ottens on the inside, going into turn 9. Pruis is able to... No, I thought he was going to try and pull it around the outside. So a brave move, trying to make the overtake going into turn 9, but manages to make it stick though. Now roles are reversed. The gap's 0.3 of a second. Is it going to be something that Paris is going to be able to get the pass back on? He needs to be around about 0.3 or so going down on the exit turn 1. Has to make up some time here. Takes a slightly shallower line. That would have cost him a bit of time on exit. Yeah, that gap's up to 5.5. Gap's up to 0.5 of a second now. So I think it may be a little bit tricky for Paris to try and make this position back. Peter Mayer's in the pits. Not entirely sure why. Don't know if he's pitting in for damage or in fact he just needs some more tyres. Could very well have done. See, a little bit. Concertina's up almost into turn 3. I thought Paris was going to run into the back of Ottens there in all honesty. But that obviously was not the case. Meanwhile, back up a little bit further. Only a couple of positions. They'll throw about 10 seconds further up the road. Rubler and Nagel still battle it. 2 more laps to go here. Or in fact, a lap and a half left to go. We've got Luke Lucchesi that's going to be taking the final lap in a second. In fact, I think he is on the final lap. He's just so far ahead. The timing tower has already ticked over. We are going to have 1 more lap after this, I believe. So Nagel is running out of time here. He has to make a move sooner or later. Oh, as I said, he's only got a couple more laps left to go. Matt Densham just gets past Daniel Rowe. Does he do it? A little bit of a lock-up there for both drivers, I think. But Densham manages to keep it around the outside. A very, very good move around the outside there for Matt Denjum, so he gets back past Daniel Rowe. Daniel Rowe's going to want that position back straight away. But Denjum is going to be fighting for it tooth and nail. This is where the battles are starting to come into their own now. These final couple laps, they always spring up some battles here and there. Du Gerber and Elroy Oliver, they're still battling. The gap's about a 1/10 of a second. There may be a move going into turn one. We've got Elroy Oliver that passes, that tries to pass already up the inside. I think it is going to be enough, though, down into turn one. Last of the late breakers, and it's going to be, yes, Elroy Oliver does maintain that position, although Gerber's going to have a much better run going on the exit of one. Darts one way, darts the other. Manages, though. I think it's just going to be driving across. And do you know what? I think the timing... Actually, we crossed the timing towers. This is it. So Luke Luchesi does take the race win, as I thought it was going to be another lap, but that is not the case. Well, I think there may be a bit of confusion in the timing tower there. It reckons there's a lap to go, but the timing tower reckons that they've already finished. And I think that is the case. Yes, Luke Luchesi does take that race win, as does Leighton Forey. He takes P2. The gaps aren't changing. Yes, so that is the case. So Forey takes through. Luchesi is in P1. I thought it was going to be an additional lap, but that was not the case. What is going to happen down here? I think it is going to be, yes, Grubler does take that P4. Attinagel has to settle for P5, unfortunately. Again, that back marker certainly played a factor into that, but also just couldn't quite get past back. Couldn't quite get back past. Du Gerber, Elroy Oliver battling down to the final bits. There's a bit of contact between the two. There may have been a bit of netcode in that as well. And unfortunately, Oliver comes off worse. That didn't look like a normal incident. It looked like a bit of a netcode incident there, in all honesty. But Elroy Oliver, he's not going to lose another position, in all honesty, because he's got 5 seconds between himself and Peter Mayer. But it's certainly not going to be ideal for him. What's going to happen here? There's going to have a last-minute late lunge, but there's never going to be in a million years. So Daniel Rowe did get past Matt Denjum again. Didn't quite see it, unfortunately. A couple more drivers left to go. There is Oliver that crosses the line in P11. Almost in P10. Had not been for that instant, he probably would have held it there. Rowe, Denjum, and then we've got Vuta Kramer that's going to come across the line now. So that is everyone that has come across the line. So it doesn't actually, it tells us that we've got one more lap, but that is not the case. And that is your full finishing results here. And in fact, we're going to bring up that confirmation for you in a few. That is going to be something that we're going to bring up the full results for you in but a few moments' time. Well, I tell you what, the incidents and there's certainly some action-packed stuff going on there in that first, in the first couple of first opening laps. Wow, that all just seemed to kick off all at once there. Absolutely, like I said, it was certainly something that I didn't think there was going to be that many incidents. I know that there does stem, and Red Bull Racing can stem some interesting races, but at the same time, I didn't think it was going to be that much. Let's bring up the results here. In fact, there we go. So Luke Luchesi does take that win by 3.1 seconds in the end on Leighton Forey. Gerald Forey takes P3 with Johan Grubler in P4. Attinagel takes 5th with Ron Ostens in 6th. Genoman Paris takes P7 along with Paul Gerber 8th. Tristan Dino-Brega in 9th and Du Gerber taking P10. Elroy Oliver with that final bit of incident has to finish in P11 with Peter Mayer finishing a couple of seconds behind in P12. Daniel Rowe takes 13th. Matt Denson takes P14 for round number 3. Vuta Kramer in 15th. Jeff Hancock takes 16th with Stephen Koenig P17. Linus Botha takes 18th on the grid. A little bit further down, Jason Gibson finishing a couple of laps down, and then Riccardo Tafani finishing in the pits 5 laps down. Unfortunately, a couple of people we're going to have a chat to. First off, we've got Stephen Koenig in the booth. Stephen, P17, having only dropped one position. I mean, there was certainly it was action packed to say the least. Just talk us through your race actually through there, because there was certainly a lot of ups and downs.
Well, definitely one of the eventful races that I've certainly been in, and like judging on the guys getting past me, it seems like everyone had a good race at the Red Bull Ring. Start was very interesting. Guys tried going 4 wide. Managed to survive that, accidentally hit my pit limiter to just try and not die, and unfortunately got to around about sector 2 after I think it was a second or third lap, where my Porker became a crinkle cut chippy, at that point, and eyes were on to go and try and help the teammates. So using Z1 software to see where they are on the map, how close everyone is, and try to let them know as much as possible. Usually what our pit boss does, I was doing while driving the crinkle cut Porker.
Well, I mean, it's, in all honesty, again, luckily not as much damage as last time. I remember we having this conversation similarly a couple of weeks ago, so there wasn't as much damage on the car this time around. But yeah, again, it certainly seen better days. One more round to go though. Obviously, before we wrap up for this season.
Definitely exciting.
Oh, it's certainly so. Certainly so.
Hoping for that top 10, that elusive top 10. But everything is getting faster and faster, and guys are really pushing it. So, I mean, bravo to the winners like Luke Lucchesi coming by. He was getting chased down, and I can't wait to see what happens. Coming to the last race. The championship's wide open for everyone. The races are getting extremely heated, and it's going to be a ton of fun in this loose tail Porker.
Certainly so, and something I think we're all very much looking forward to. We are going to bring in the top 3 in a moment. Stephen, again, pleasure to be able to catch up. We're going to quickly bring in the top 3, but we look forward to catch up with you again. Do make sure you pop in next week over in the next couple of weeks. Do make sure you pop in after the final round. It'll always be good. And yes, I said we'll be rooting for you for that top 10, and we'll catch up with you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, Stephen. There we go. So what we are going to do is just bring in. We have got a chance to chat with the top 3. First off, Luke Lucchesi. Luke, congratulations again on the race win.
Thank
Certainly wasn't the biggest gap that you won by, with only a 3 second or so being actually 2.7 seconds being the gap in the end between yourself and Leighton. Just how did that race go for you? I imagine luckily you missed the carnage at the start, and you managed to drive away along with Leighton.
Yeah, I got a good launch, so I sort of put sort of like a half a second, 0.6 gap between me and P2, so I could take turn 1 without defending or anything. I think that helped quite a bit. It helped me get that initial gap, and then from there I just sort of kept a calm head, because with this car it's very easy to lock, especially on this circuit. Just to hit all the apexes, get all the braking points right, and then just gradually sort of edge away. I think the pace was very, very similar between myself and Leighton. I was hoping I could sort of, start taking it easy towards the end, but I mean, he just kept the hammer down right till the last lap. I mean, in fact, the gap was less. The gap was about a second, and then he went wide out the last turn, so he got to slow down. So you had to slow the car down to get the penalty cleared before he crossed the line. Otherwise, he would have been DQ'd. So that's why the gap is 3 seconds at the end. But yeah, it was actually between the whole race between say a second and 2 seconds. So it was very tight.
Well, absolutely, and as you say, absolutely pushing right till the very end, which is good. It's always nice to be able to keep on your toes like that, and I'm sure it's going to be the same. I'm sure it's going to be the same going forward into next week as well. Over the next couple of weeks, the final round, because that's when it becomes. It's very much all to play for then, even though positions may be decided, but again, it's just going to be no let up. I don't think, and I think that's probably for the best.
Yes, no, 100%. I think it's good action. It's a pity we couldn't have been sort of battling, but with this car, the aero, you don't really gain so much in like slipstream down the straights and stuff. So if you run the same lap times, it's very difficult to close the gap unless the guy in front makes a mistake. So that's what I was just trying to avoid. Just trying to sort of keep calm, because when the tires go off in this thing, then it's super easy to snatch a brake or lose the rear end. So especially on this track, and then off tracks are another thing. You got to watch off tracks because it's very easy to get an off track here.
Yes, very, very true. Yeah, we saw that in qualifying as well. A couple of people weren't able to set some lap times. But again, Luke, congratulations on the win, and hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll be chatting with you in similar circumstances.
Thank you very much.
Take care, Luke. Have a good one.
Cheers, you too.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
There we are, Luke Lucchesi taking round 3 victory here. The next person we're going to have a quick chat to. We'll have a chat to Leighton from it. In fact, here he is now. Leighton, P2, congratulations. Luke was actually just saying in there as well, you absolutely gave it everything right till the very end.
Yeah, I did. I tried to save my tires a little bit in the beginning. I think I maybe did that a bit too much, and especially with the back markers, it was a struggle, especially around Red Bull Ring. It would be, and then I think I had the pace at the end, and then the race fell one lap short for some reason, and I just tried to give it everything on the last lap, and then I got a slow down on the last corner, but I mean. At least I can say I gave it everything. But yeah, it's good championship points and quite happy.
Absolutely, and going into the final round as well. One more round. The gloves are off, so to speak. Again, anything you're really going to try and do differently? Anything you want to focus on before this next round?
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't feel comfortable with the car tonight, and I think. At circuits like Spa and at Daytona, I felt a little bit more comfortable. So hopefully at Okayama, I can get the pace back to where it was. But I'm quite confident going in there. So just go in there with a little bit more confidence, and we'll see where the pace is.
Good stuff. Absolutely perfect. Well, Leighton, thank you very much for that. Again, pleasure to catch up, and we look forward to catching up with you. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Cool. Thank you.
Take care, Leighton. And then last but not least, we are going to have a talk to Mr. Gerald Ferry. Gerald, P3. We actually got past Garubla and Nagel. I think it was about midway through the race. And I think through there, did you feel like the pace was there? Because it seemed that as soon as you passed both of them, you sort of took off and drove away into the distance, so to speak, with them battling behind. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I think what was quite crucial is that Johan and Ati started battling behind me. I picked up a bit of damage in the first corner. Daniel spun right in front of us, and I had nowhere to go and drove into him. So I felt there was a bit of damage. So I knew if Ati and Johan started fighting behind me, that was my best chance to get away. And I just put in some really consistent laps, try to be as consistent as fast as possible. And I quickly got a 3-second lead. And just managed it from there. They sort of swapped position once more after that, which gave me a little bit more of an edge. And just managed the front tires. Even during the practice sessions, the front tires really started falling off even after about 5-6 laps. I had to go all the way back on brake pressure just to get the car to rotate through the corners. So it was a race. I'm not sure what the track temperatures were during the race, but I felt it was quite hot. The car was sliding all over the place. Car understeered a hell of a lot, but it was a lot of fun. It was just nice finishing one of these for a change. I've had a lot of bad luck in the first 2 races.
Well, certainly so, and as you say, it's a positive way to finish that third race, and I'm sure that's given you a little bit of confidence actually going forward down into the final round.
Yeah, Okayama's going to be interesting. I can't say I've ever driven a Porsche Cup around there. I did loads of races when I came through the ranks in iRacing. I started playing iRacing about 4 months ago, and came through the ranks there on the Ferrari Challenge. Felt like we were there for a month. We did so many races there. So I know it quite well in the Ferrari Challenge. I think in the Porsche it's going to be a bit tricky, especially the last couple of corners. Again, I think there's going to be a lot of understeer. So again, you're going to have to manage well, get the car to rotate. But yeah, it's great being up there. I would have liked to have been closer to Leighton and Luke, but I think there was a bit of damage, and they 2 aliens when it comes to racing. I suppose I should manage my expectations.
Well, again, it's considering you've only been on the platform 4 months, to have finished in the P3 again with a pretty strong and competitive field. Very, very impressive stuff. Well,
I've got a good coach sitting behind me. So, Leighton's sitting right behind me in his rig, so I've got a good coach.
Oh, there you go. Absolutely. No, that's perfect. Well, again, really, really well done again on P3, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up with you in similar circumstances in the next couple of weeks.
I hope so too. Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Take care, Gerald.
Ciao. Cheers. Bye.
There we go, Gerald Florey there, and that is time for us to wrap up. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure. We will be back in 2 weeks at the same time for the finale at Okayama in the Refined Racing League Porsche Cup Season number 2. Round number 4 at Okayama Full. A fantastic circuit, a great pairing for these cars. Very, very excited. As always, everyone, please make sure you take care, stay safe, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.